He became rich the same day he lost his best friend. Not in an argument, not with a slammed door or a broken glass. He lost him with a pen, blue ink bleeding across a contract while the city blinked outside, like it knew what was happening and refused to intervene. His name was Aaron Vale. He was 31, living in a one-bedroom apartment with a view of a brick wall that looked like a calendar of other people's plans. He'd built a finance app that promised to do the one thing most budgeting tools lied about: tell the truth you didn't want to hear. The app tracked habits, not just numbers. How often you opened delivery menus after midnight. How long you lingered on a sneaker page without buying. How many times an ex's name made you spend like you were arguing with the past. It was clever, raw, a little invasive. It felt like him. And then there was Jonah. They met freshman year, two broke kids sharing a dorm fridge and a box of instant noodles like communion. Jonah wrote code like a pianist plays, confident, fast, with a small smile that said the music had been waiting for him to arrive. When Aaron pitched the idea 3 years later, Jonah didn't ask about equity first. He asked for a whiteboard, a marker, and tacos. That was the language they spoke: ideas and food. They built at night and slept like roomers. Jonah's keyboard wore down where his fingers crashed dreams into logic. Aaron pitched to anyone who'd stand still long enough to be pitched to: baristas, janitors, an Uber driver who almost missed an exit because the story got good. They called it sober. Because that's what the app did to you. It sobered your spending up. The first investor passed. The second ghosted. The third asked for product market fit and took a call before Aaron could answer. Still, the users came, first in dozens, then hundreds, leaving reviews that read like confessions. I stopped lying to my future self. I finally paid my mother back. I didn't know my loneliness had a price until Sober showed me the receipt. The number that mattered wasn't downloads. It was one, Riley Marrow. She ran a fund like a myth, turning 2 founders and a slide deck into headlines and glass offices. When she DM'd, Aaron stared until the letters looked like shapes from a language he never learned. Her office sat 40 floors up, all glass and air and power. Riley listened without blinking. When Aaron finished, she turned to Jonah. "Can it scale?" Jonah nodded. "We need server muscle, a small team, and money we don't have." Riley smiled. "I have all 3. I also have other founders building something similar, slower. We can win, but I need control." She slid a paper over. $20 million for the company. I take 80%. You two get the rest in jobs for life. 80%. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a weather report. "Jobs for life?" Aaron asked. "Golden cages," Jonah murmured. Riley leaned back. "I like winners. Winners like certainty." They left with the city's wind in their faces and silence in their mouths. At the corner, where taxis argue with gravity, Aaron said, "We can counter." Jonah shook his head. "She wants the steering wheel. She'll cut us out of our own car." That night, Aaron stared at the brick wall and saw a skyline. He saw an office with his mother's name on a plaque because he bought the building. He saw debt gone, rent turned into an address of pride, strangers calling him visionary with the same mouth that called him broke last year. He also saw another possibility. 6 months later, a competitor launches first. Sober becomes a footnote, and he is just a guy explaining to his landlord that he almost changed the world. 2 days later, Riley called with a different offer. "You get 40%, I get 60%, but I need to move now. I have another founder with a similar thesis. Decide today." Jonah wanted time. Aaron wanted oxygen. "Let's say no," Jonah said, hands in pockets so his fingers wouldn't betray his heart. "We built something honest. We keep it honest." Aaron heard honest and thought small. He heard keep and felt stay. He told himself the lie ambitious people tell when they want to do what they want without being the villain. "I'll fix it later." He signed. Jonah didn't. He left his signature where his principles were. Inside him, unspent. Riley hugged Aaron like a prize. Papers became wires. They connected, they restricted, they hummed with power. The wire he didn't see was the one between his chest and Jonah's absence. It tugged when he breathed. The first month felt like flying. They hired. They moved into an office where the plants looked better fed than Aaron had been last year. They pushed features he'd dreamed about at 3 a.m. Habit loops, guilt interrupts, future self messages. Users doubled, quadrupled, grew like a rumor that was finally true. Riley began calling the shots with the kind of smile that makes a yes sound like your idea. "We need stickiness," she said, "and revenue that doesn't apologize." She wanted a gentle shove if people overspent repeatedly, charge small fees that nudge behavior. "Tiny penalties," she said, tapping the table. "You know, for their own good." Jonah would have argued about the slope of own good. Without him, the room nodded. Aaron felt the wire tug. The penalties rolled out with language smoother than silk. Users clicked agree after scrolling past the part that hurt. Revenue charted a lovely upward slope. So did complaints, not many, enough for Aaron to hear them in the shower. "You promised truth," one review said. "You sold us discipline and snuck in punishment." He wrote back personally, late at night, apologizing to strangers with a tenderness he couldn't aim at himself. Riley saw the replies and shook her head. "You're the CEO," she said. "Stop writing love letters to customers and start writing strategy." They launched partnerships, card issuers, buy now, pay later companies, a network of brands nudging healthy spending. The algorithm got smarter. It predicted loneliness spikes on Sunday nights and invited you to buy something that felt like company. It tracked paychecks and offered advances to protect your future. It started to feel like Sober was selling you wine as long as you promised to drink it in a healthy way. At the 6-month mark, Sober hit a valuation so large that newspapers used words like meteoric and unlikely. A journalist asked Aaron on camera, "What would you say to your younger self? The guy in the one bedroom with the brick wall?" "Hold on," he said, and smiled like he believed it. He didn't tell them about the wire. He and Jonah hadn't spoken since the signing. Sometimes Aaron typed a message and deleted it. Sometimes he drafted an apology in notes and pretended he'd sent it because his chest loosened for an hour. Sometimes he swore he'd show up at Jonah's place, knock until the deadbolt believed, and say the only sentence that mattered: "You mattered more than the money." He said none of it. He built, he smiled, and he curated guilt like a museum exhibit he visited at night when no one was looking. The first real crack appeared like most cracks do, in a place painted over too many times. A user named MC tweeted a thread that went viral: screenshots, fees, the language that said nudges and meant fines. The phrase "for your own good" underlined. It wasn't furious, it was disappointed. That felt worse. The thread ended with a question. If an app teaches me to tell the truth, why is it lying about being a bank with a therapist's voice? Riley convened a war room. "We don't blink," she said. "We explain. We lean into responsibility." Aaron read the thread again. The wire tugged like someone on the other end had started running. He called Jonah. The phone rang, each tone a small punishment. Voicemail. He tried again. When Jonah answered, his voice sounded older. "I messed up," Aaron said. The two words tasted like they'd been stored too long. "I made it big and made it smaller." "I know," Jonah said. "I've been watching. I thought I could fix it later. You kept building a later that never arrived." Silence rolled between them. It wasn't empty. It was crowded with the things they hadn't said. "I need you," Aaron said. It was stripped of pride and therefore true. "Not for code, for spine." Jonah let out a breath. "You want my help to undo the deal you made to get the life you wanted." "I want my friend to look me in the eye again," Aaron said. "I want sober to stop selling comfort as discipline." "You can't pay me back," Jonah said. "Not in money." Then his voice softened. "But you can pay the people we promised to tell the truth." They met in a diner that smelled like melted butter and old decisions. Jonah slid into the booth without ceremony. He wore the same hoodie from their first demo. He looked like a photograph from a better room. Aaron put his phone face down. "Help me." Jonah stirred his coffee, not drinking. "Riley will fight. She built a machine that eats promises and prints profit. You'll need a new promise it can't digest." "What?" "Radical transparency," Jonah said. "No hidden fees, no dark patterns. Publish the algorithm. Explain the nudges like you're talking to your mother. If it hurts to implement, it's probably honest. Riley will say transparency is suicide." "Then die on the right hill," Jonah said. He looked up. "Or keep winning on the wrong one." The board meeting felt like weather again, pressure systems colliding. Aaron laid out the plan. Riley listened, expression neutral like a blade's reflection. "You want to publish the algorithm?" she asked. "You want to erase fees that made us sustainable?" "I want to rebuild trust before trust rebuilds us," Aaron said. "We promised the truth. Let's survive it." The vote split. Investors arguing about lifetime value versus lifetime shame. Riley's 60% frowned. "I respect your idealism," she said, which is how power says be grateful. But no, Aaron had known this was the likely ending. He had also prepared for it. He'd been writing a letter the night before to employees, users, press, a confession wrapped around a promise. He pulled it up. "If we can't agree," he said quietly, "I resign." A murmur, a gasp, a text pinging in someone's purse. Riley's eyebrows barely moved. "You would walk away from everything we built?" "I already did," he said. "The day I signed. This is the day I walk back." He posted the letter. It wasn't a manifesto, it was a mirror. He wrote about Sober's birth in a dorm room, about the dream to help people stop lying to themselves, about the decision that traded control for speed, about how speed turned into compromise. He wrote about fees that taught discipline with a hidden stick, about nudges that sometimes felt like hands in pockets. He apologized without rounding the corners. Then he wrote the new promise. He and a small team would fork the code they had rights to, the open pieces, the parts they had authored, and build a non-profit version called Candle. No fees, no tricks, donation-based, algorithm open like a book in a good home. He ended with a line that wasn't clever, it was clean. "If money twists the truth, we choose truth and let money find another friend." The internet did what it always does, argued, adored, mocked, turned it into content. But beneath the noise, something real moved. Users wrote back, "I felt less crazy reading this. I can forgive mistakes that apologize like this. I'll follow you to Candle, Riley called that night, voice colder. "You've made an enemy," she said. "I already had one," he said. "I just stopped pretending it was my friend." Candle launched in a small office that looked like humility and smelled like coffee the way hope smells like rain. The first donors were users who'd been fined. They gave $10 like it was a secret handshake. The second were strangers who liked the idea of a world where your budget didn't manipulate you. The third were people who still believed you could build without selling your spine for parts. The features were fewer. The app was slower. The reviews were grateful in a way that made Aaron cry in the bathroom and tell the faucet to mind its business. "Thank you for not pushing me when I'm hurting." Thank you for the line that says, "Pause. Do you want to buy because you're lonely?" Thank you for reminding me that my future self deserves money more than my sadness does. A year later, Sober sold to a bigger company with a shinier brand and duller conscience. The article that announced it used words like synergy and unlocking value. Aaron didn't read past the headline. He was busy pushing an update to Candle that let people write letters to their future selves and schedule them to arrive on hard days. The copy read, "You told the truth. Here is your reward, your own voice, from a day when you believed in yourself." He and Jonah sat on the office floor after midnight, eating tacos like they used to. "You didn't forgive me," Aaron said. "You made me earn being in the same room." "I didn't know if you'd choose me over money," Jonah said. "Turns out you chose people over money. I can live with that." They laughed like a door opening. The brick wall in Aaron's old apartment didn't change. But when he visited, he saw it differently. It looked like an honest boundary instead of a prison, a place from which he'd learned the cost of certain kinds of yes. At a small conference, a student asked him, "Was it worth it, the money you lost?" Aaron thought of the day he signed, the phone call he finally made, the diner, the boardroom, the resignation, the bathroom tears, the first donation that felt like a sunrise. He didn't say yes or no. He said, "I learned the currency I want to get paid in. It isn't dollars, it's sleep." He built an empire by betraying his best friend. He rebuilt a life by telling the truth to strangers and asking his friend to watch. The empire is a headline that will yellow. The life is the thing he carries, light as a promise kept. We all sell pieces of ourselves to survive, our time, our talent, our truth. But the bill always arrives. When it does, you learn what you really bought. If this story moved you, subscribe to Money Parables, like this video, share it with someone who needs the reminder, and tell us, in the comments, what's the most expensive thing you ever bought with your integrity? And did you get a refund? A new story